Welcome back. It's finally the day. It's finally the night. It's finally the long night. That's right. We are here to review on another episode of Josh Does Movies, The Batman, by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson as Batman. You have other great actors in there like Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis. Just a filled cast to the brim. And I'm going to tell you some of the things I love about this movie, some of the things in non spoiler ways that I think the movie had some missteps, and overall my thoughts on it overall and who I'd recommend it to. First off, I have to say this is probably one of those movies that tentpole movies everybody was looking forward to for a while. Um, Pattinson was casted as Batman after Ben Affleck. Everybody wanted to know what was going to happen. I personally can come out and say he did a very good performance as Batman. I think his stunt work, at least what he looked like he was doing was very well done. The few scenes he has with Alfred, where he gets to play a little bit of a Bruce Wayne, he did a very good job of. I don't think anybody should think that Robert Pattinson couldn't pull this off because I think he did a very good job playing Batman. Um, Also, something that somebody did a very good job was Jeffrey Wright as you know Detective Gordon, maybe going to be Commissioner Gordon in the future. That classic role that's been played by so many great actors. Jeffrey Wright knocked out of the park. Andy Serkis on his small role hit it out of the park. Colin Farrell as the Penguin brought in a very top-notch performance overall. Dano as the Riddler, just a very well acted movie all around. Um, Cinematography was amazingly done, and there's a lot of good parts about this movie. Without spoiling anything, the first two-thirds of this movie, if not like three-quarters, was a detective style story. And I like that we got to see, Batman be the detective that was solving things out, and we were learning and solving it as we were going on with him. It wasn't preaching to us. It wasn't trying to make us feel stupid. It wasn't giving us stupid things. It was a very good detective story that was balanced out by the Riddler's Dano, who was more of a serial killer style villain in this movie. There's a lot that goes on in this movie. There's a lot of detective work that happens. A lot of that detective work kind of gets paired up with Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, Selena Kyle, that we've all seen in the trailers. And I think in a lot of the scenes, her and Pattinson work very well as the Selena Kyle Bruce Wayne combo, Batman and Catwoman. But I do think there were some misses in the area that I think towards the end of the movie it didn't sit with me too well. Um, I think the first two-thirds of this movie was an excellent made movie. I think the detective work and the mystery that was being unfolded was very compelling. I thought that Pattinson was playing the parts that Bruce came out very, very well. I felt that it was having an impact. And there was an actual scene where I was like, if the movie ended here, leading into a potential sequel, I was perfectly fine with it. Um, but then came the last third of the movie, and it just felt like it wasn't given enough time in this movie to really warrant and really award the final act of this movie. And I don't mean some of the characters per se, I mean where the act goes. I think we had a very good conclusion to the mystery storyline, and then the final part in one of the final big scenes just didn't we didn't get any clues to it. There wasn't really any warnings of it. I don't think it worked well in this movie environment. I think it felt like, I talked to some people after the movie, and some of us do agree. This felt like it was two movies slammed into one. It is a long movie. It's 2 hours and around 47 minutes, and it does feel that length at times. But the third act of this movie just feels unnecessarily tacked on when it didn't need to be. You know, I like the idea of where this movie could have ended, and I'm going to do a spoiler review after this, going into the details and breaking down what parts I really liked in spoiler details, and really break down where I want this movie to end and where it failed for me in the last third. Some other things I'll talk about the movie a little bit. There's so much to talk about because I'm doing a spoiler review. And since I got to see this so early, I don't want to spoil much of the movie. It's very, very dark in both the sense of Bruce Wayne and Batman and the classic Gotham dark feel of a movie in terms of having dark morals, you know, a lot of crime lord action in the movie, but it's also like very dark visually. A lot of this movie takes place at night, and a lot of it takes place at night in small apartment rooms or a nightclub. You know, there isn't very much daylight in this movie, so if you're somebody who isn't liking movies that are gonna be dark visually, if that's tough for you, this might not be one you want to see in theaters. I still recommend it for just about anybody per se, but like for instance, I know my mom doesn't like when movies are overly dark. You know, she has vision problems and she isn't able to focus well on that. And I think this people with similar issues like that may have a trouble fully getting into this movie. I got to see it in IMAX. Like I said, it was beautiful cinematography, beautifully shot in my opinion. You know, very well done in a lot of different ways. But that's probably my only one gripe that I think people might not want to see it is that. Or if you're somebody who wants to take your kid to it, there's a lot of violence in this movie. This is a borderline R-rated movie. In a lot of different aspects. I can see why it kind of got stuck with that type of rating out in foreign countries like the UK. There's a lot of reasons why this is R, whether it be violence, whether it be some of the things that they're going through, some of these nightclubs, um, some of these settings per se. You know, I think PG-13 is fine, but it definitely borders lines on the PG-13, R. So if you're having like a 10, 9, 8 year old kid who wants to go see a Batman movie, that's up to a parent whether they want to do that. I do say that this is going to be more towards the R. As far as things, like I said, I really like this movie. When it's a detective movie, when you're having Bruce Wayne kind of reflect on things that he's finding out throughout the movie. When you're having really personal connections, you know, Pattinson had great chemistry with Jeffrey Wright, and I think we're just being seen that Jeffrey Wright is just a phenomenal actor, and I think he was probably the best actor in this movie. I think Colin Farrell was great as the Penguin. There's a few other characters I don't want to get into because I think they're going to be spoilery when it comes to the movie. But that's kind of my overall thoughts. I will say one thing that I didn't fully like as much as I thought I would was the score of the movie. The score and the music was done by Michael Giacchino. I'm like looking over here on the side because I don't know how to pronounce his name. And we just get that same Batman theme that we've got in all the trailers during all of the fight sequences and stuff. And while it's kind of epic in some parts, I kind of wish they pulled back and had different type of musics or different type of score to it. Because all we kept hearing was dun 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 in the middle of like every fight sequence. And it was cool for some, and it was great for some sequences, like the one we saw in the trailer with the Penguin being flipped over on the other side of his car. A scene that I wish was not shown in the trailer. I think that would have been so much better not knowing what was going to happen in that scene. But it was one of the hooks of one of the trailers. I don't blame them for it, but I don't think that was something that needed to be. I think it lessened the impact for me as a viewer knowing that came in a trailer already. But that was my only gripe with this. Like the score was very nuanced in other areas, but every time we had a Batman fight scene, it was just don 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 pun pun don 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 don. And it took me out of the element a bit because it felt very repetitive. When a movie's 2 hours and 47 minutes long, and we keep getting back that same one, like it's like having the chorus of a song over and over and over and over again. It just wasn't my particular favorite. And that's kind of my thought. Like I said, The Batman was a very good movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't going to be one of my favorite Batman movies of all time. It's probably going to be around that, I level of the first Batman movie or the Dark Knight Rises, but I think it fails where like Batman Begins and the Dark Knight as top tier Batman movies. I think it fails being that reach for a lot of different reasons, and I think mainly that third act is why. I also think that in this movie they just had Pattinson play Batman. There was very little Bruce Wayne, and he was basically just Batman almost the whole movie, and I felt bad in some ways because I feel like Pattinson never got a chance to actually, act out and be Bruce Wayne. The whole movie was almost just him as Batman. I think there would be a lot of people who like that. Me personally, I thought some of the story elements of this, we really needed to see Bruce come out more. But it was just Batman. It was only about Batman in a lot of this movie. Now, let's go ahead and I'm going to put it on my rankings for the year. And this isn't the top movie I've seen. I still have Belle at number one, but the Batman is coming up at number two. And I do think there's a big gap between the Batman and Scream 5. The rest of the movies I don't need to go over. That I've done that in previous ones. You can go see my reviews and why I had them certain places currently. But the Batman was just a very, very good movie all around. A lot of great acting in it. A lot of great visuals. The score wasn't as much for me. And the third act I felt was unnecessarily tacked on, and again made me feel like this was two movies in one. If you want to know more about my thoughts, I'm going to be posting a spoiler review. It should be going up on Thursday, probably somewhere around 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That's whenever the movie's going to be coming out where I live at. I'm going to post it around that time, going more of the spoilers and stuff. I'm going to look like I do now because I'm going to film it right after this. But I really want to talk about the things that I do not like about this movie and the things that I really, really like and where I honestly, where I would have cut this movie off and I think it would have just landed perfectly with audiences. But without that, tell me what you thought. If you haven't seen the Batman, tell me what you're looking forward to the most. When you do see it, come back here and check out my spoiler review. Comment here what was your favorite part, stuff like that. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if this was the best thing you've seen in so long. Tell me if you were happy with it. Who knows? Just leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I love talking about movies, and I want some more. I would love to get some interaction on that. And I'm hoping because I got to see this early, I'm gonna catch a lot of people's eyes that I haven't done before. So if you've stayed here this long, thank you. I hope you have a great time. I hope you go back and enjoy this movie or enjoy other movies coming up here soon. Check out some of my other videos. Check out the spoiler review. But until then, I hope you have a good day, a good night, and I'll see you next time.